members of the American Academy of Implant Dentistry. Today I have something very special for you. We have Jason Edwards here, which his father was one of the initiators of Juneteenth. And unbeknownst to me, that I found out from our past president, Bernie Dunson, that his birthday was yesterday. So this even makes it more special for us to be talking about it. So we're recording this in March. So very cool, very cool. So I'd like to introduce for us Jason Edwards. Jason is the son of the developer or the originator or promoter for this Juneteenth. And he's with us here today, and he's going to give us some insights on this great organization. So welcome, Jason.
Thank you so much, Ed, and I appreciate the organization recognizing the holiday, and I'm glad Bernie did make the connection in our time together at his home. And so pleasure to meet you, and hope this is fruitful for your organization.
I'm sure it will be. So my first question to you is, how did Juneteenth originate?
So Juneteenth was originated as the day that General Granger arrived in Galveston to enforce the Emancipation Proclamation. And so President Lincoln had freed the slaves through Emancipation Proclamation approximately 2 years earlier. And Texas, along with a few other states, refused to recognize the proclamation. And so Texas, unfortunately, was where some slave owners would leave Alabama and leave other states and bring their slaves with them because Texas was ignoring the order to free their slaves. And so I think there's this misconception that Texas didn't hear about the Emancipation Proclamation, and that's not true, because the way it was disseminated across the country, Texas was aware, but there was the need to send an armada from the United States around Florida and into the Gulf of Mexico, arriving in Galveston, and they arrived on June 19th, and that's where General Granger read, I think it's General Order Number 3, enforcing and ordering all slaves be freed in the state of Texas. And that was approximately the last state where an enclave of slaves was freed in the country. And so that's the significance of that date specifically.
So I guess the next question is, why is Juneteenth celebrated? And I think some of it you've answered, but.
Yeah, so immediately at that time, according to historians and family traditions, I'm a descendant of a Texas slave. There was celebratory, slaves celebrated. They were experiencing freedom for the first time, and no one really knows what that's like, being enslaved in the state of Texas, 100-degree temperatures. I always tell people when I speak, if they could get their hands on a tuft of cotton on a plant, you could feel the outer shell of cotton. Most of us only experience cotton in our clothing, but the sharp edges of cotton and the job of being a slave, being enslaved in a country, in your country that you were born in, had insurmountable, repercussions and instances and experiences for those slaves. And so it's celebrated. And from that day forward, every June 19th was celebrated by the African-American population in Texas. And so I grew up celebrating the holiday, and my father ultimately thought that holiday should become a state holiday and be recognized by the state, being that it wasn't where it occurred. And that inspired him to run for the state legislature in 1979. And he got this bill passed as a freshman legislator with only 16 Black legislators in the House at the time out of, I believe, 153. And so that brings a whole set of stories associated with it. But so we celebrate it today because it's one of the largest days marking freedom in this country. That America loves freedom. We're built on the premise of it. And so for Americans to be freed from an enslaved status within their own country by their own government is something to be celebrated.
Dad was a very impressive person.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So how was Juneteenth recognized and celebrated today?
So today, across the country, since I was a little boy, uh, just in Houston alone, Dad would rent out, you call it your largest convention center in your city or your nearby, big city. So in Houston, he used to rent out the entire George R. Brown Convention Center for a celebration. And we were lucky to have a younger version of Beyonce perform in the talent shows before she became the Beyonce that the world knows. And, she and my sister danced in the same dance school. And so that created, relationship but so celebratory, Juneteenth is usually a mixture between celebratory, barbecue, red soda, watermelon, like some of the traditional, Southern soul food that you'll get when you go to a cookout with African Americans, right? There's not that much difference between that, but it also has an aspect of a solemn aspect of recognizing your ancestors and what they suffered through to get us here. And so, there's a saying within the African American community that we're our ancestors' wildest dreams, being able to live in the freedoms that we're able to live in today that they couldn't. I always tell people when I speak that slaves, were Americans, but they never were able to enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They would have children and the children would be sold off. They'd be married and the couples would be split as a penalty. And so it's hard to have a nuclear family and good family culture when that's the order of the day that's being put upon either death or have your family split or have your children sold. And so as we deal with some of that history today and some of the reverberations from that family culture, we hope that the day has a solemn aspect and a celebratory aspect to it.
So, so what are some of the common misconceptions about Juneteenth? I'm
I
sure
think I think the biggest misconception that I deal with the most is that it's a Black holiday. And so, or our white brothers and sisters or Hispanic brothers and sisters want to know where they fit in to this holiday. And I always say that when my dad would speak, my dad passed away about 13 months before it became a federal holiday. But what he would say when he would speak was that it's an American holiday for all Americans. We have Memorial Day where we celebrate and honor our troops. That's a solemn day, right? And so where we honor those that sacrificed to protect our country. And historically, we would just skip right over to 4th of July and celebrate freedom. And so in between there, in June 19th, one of the largest actions of freedom that the country has taken that was actually splitting our country into two, brought us to war, was inhumane in nature, and was robbing citizens born in this country of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, was the freedom that was enjoyed by 4 million Americans. And so freedom is a tenet of America. It's a cultural norm of America. We've gone to war to give other cultures, other countries freedom. And so I tell audiences all the time that if you love freedom and you love America, then celebrating Juneteenth is just as American as celebrating the 4th of July, because the America we have today would not exist if the country had not sorted this issue out and let all humans have an opportunity to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Awesome. How can organizations such as the AID support the awareness and understanding of Juneteenth?
So I would say for your membership, things like this where you show an attention towards the holiday. It's a federal holiday now. And so people always ask, why did Dad do this? One of the reasons was to make America pause and recognize history. sometimes, as we see in the news, if you pay attention to the news, there's an effort to, some aspects of American history we don't want to embrace. And some of that has to do with my family's history in the country. And so your organization elevating the holiday, recognizing the federal holiday, and highlighting the fact that the African-American experience in this country is as American as, any other subculture in this country. And so recognizing it, elevating it, and then also using it as a way to engage your African-American membership is a benefit, because a lot of us that are here, unless you are, from Africa or your family wasn't a descendant of American slavery, are affected by slavery. And in our family cultures, we know who those people were. And so I appreciate you all elevating it. And but by doing statements and coffee chats like this, that we call it, at Juneteenth USA, those are the things you can do.
Awesome.
For the holiday. But I would tell everyone, connect with your friends that are celebrating Juneteenth and enjoy the federal holiday, just like, and if there's something going on in your city, take your kids and go enjoy the holiday just as every other American should.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing all that. I really appreciate that. Our heritage is very important for everybody. I have heritage too. And, one of the things I think your father has instilled on you, as well as my father, your heritage, yes, but you always want to do better for your children. And it sounds like your dad was awesome, being able to establish something like this. So, what purpose is for Juneteenth USA?
So Juneteenth USA, Dad started it. So the holiday was passed in 1979. It was signed into law in 1980. There's a picture. If you go to JuneteenthUSA.org, there's a photo of my father speaking at the lectern in front of the Texas State Capitol. And so I'm in that picture also. So you'll notice there are two little boys being held by my mother and my uncle that have, Jackson 5, 1980s afros and shirts that say Al Edwards. I'm looking at it on the other screen here. And so Juneteenth USA was started by Dad to advocate and elevate the history of Juneteenth and make it a national holiday. And so Dad spent his career, the balance of his career since 1980, using Juneteenth USA, one, to do celebrations in the city of Houston and around the state of Texas. He did one in Russia. He did one in Africa at one point. And he would speak around the country. There are articles in our archives where I followed his footsteps, even though I was very young. Going back over his history has been intriguing. It's been an interesting journey. And so Juneteenth USA now, I speak at corporations. So I speak at public companies, helping them onboard the holiday responsibly, helping them use the holiday to connect with their African-American employees, and also use it as a way to embrace the other cultures, as a gateway to explore the other cultures and have other cultures explore ours and its impact. And so Juneteenth USA, if you go to JuneteenthUSA.org, we're 100% donor funded. I don't get paid. My brother, my sister, and I do this out of labor of love for my father, to advocate for the holiday. Our benchmark is getting public companies and private corporations and organizations like you all to adopt the holiday and elevate it. And so feel free to support. The money goes to programming that support those generally affected by American slavery. And so there are reverberations from American slavery that we could get into in a broader session. But, mainly we focus on education and STEM programs.
Awesome.
For kids. Yeah.
Well, I know we're going to have a little spot here that shows where people, if they want to make donations and stuff for this great program. And I appreciate your time and being able to explain all this, because it's very worthwhile. And again, it's great that we could celebrate this public forum right now with your dad's birthday being was so close.
Yeah,
Such a
that
great
was
birthday.
yesterday. Yep.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, no, I told everyone I call it freedom season from June 19th to 4th of July is a window of time right in the middle of summer. Use it as an excuse to celebrate freedom from June 19th all the way to 4th of July and really enjoy it.
awesome. Well, thanks again. I greatly appreciate this.
And I appreciate you all also.
All right. And then for our members, again, thank you for everything you do for American Academy of Implant Dentistry. And I wish you well. And let's do the best for our patients out there. Thanks again.